Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios. So I'm going to start covering something that I've really wanted to do. Denny O'Neil's Iron Man run. But unlike how I normally go about doing them, which is kind of reading the comic books, I'm actually going to do a quicker version as I'm going to just sort of narrate what's going on. I'm going to be putting them in several issues out at a time. So it'll be sort of how I used to do things in the beginning. So here we go with a cover. This is, by the way, from 1982. And Denny O'Neil had left DC Comics to go to Marvel. So it's a nice, striking cover here. The cover is by Jim Starling, who is, of course, everybody knows him as the writer artist of let's see, the co-creator of Thanos. He wrote the Infinity Gauntlet. Oh my gosh, I'm just struggling here. He's done quite a few stuff. He is in my top 20 of best creator of all time. So we are going to start here. A Cry of Beasts. And this is drawn by Steve Ditko. Rest in peace. Who, of course, is the co-creator of Spider-Man here. And we see a drunk Iron Man. So we've got Denny O'Neil, Steve Ditko, Dan Green from the X-Men, long X-Men inker, by the way. Also, rest in peace. Mary Severin is doing this page, though. So just FYI that Mary Severin is the one doing this particular splash page. This turns out to be, so you see here Tony's drunk and just having just being reckless and stuff. This is going to be something that is going to define Denny O'Neil's run. So he's going to go back to the bottle here in time. Mark Renwald, also rest in peace, is the editor. So Tony wakes up here. He hasn't had a drink in forever. Remember, this is coming off a Demon in the Bottle here. He thinks it's on his mind. He's going to a party where there is going to be a lot of alcohol. He can't get out of having to do that party because he's the only one that can explain what's going on here. He video conferences Mrs. Arbogast, asked if everything's ready for tonight. She says yes. And then he asks to see this Martinelli here. Does the same thing, asks if everything's going to be ready, and he says yes. And of course, he says here, I don't even know why I'm bothering with security arrangements. After all, what could go wrong at the Long Island Zoo? Oh, but that is why we have a comic book. This guy says everything's ready to go for Mr. Stark, and this person goes here. He kind of makes a hit on her, and she grabs him, and you can see here he screams some screen tones being here. And they go, he is dead, come. So pretty simple. And you can see that they are going to go there. And it says here, our goal is elsewhere within these walls. So, all right. So, it says here, sometime later, we're at the party. For some reason, Tony is obsessed with the security. He says there wasn't nobody at the gate, so he's gonna call Martinelli and excuses himself. His date is getting a little tipsy here. They offer him scotch, And he's like, I'm sure it's excellent here. It's 25-year-old scotch. He passes on it, and she grabs his, and he's a little bit annoyed here. And then this guy here introduces Tony Stark to everybody. He's telling them now about the reason for the gathering, which is this little device here. It's a system built around this microcomputer scanner, which will actually read, and read is in quotations. Of course, we use that more often nowadays. The zoo animals and bodies, and then will create the correct feed for each and deliver it out. Basically, they're going to automate the feeding process here and monitor the entire area. So basically, it's very similar. You know, it's a futurist here. So down there you could see now what we have. This the people in the robes were the Serpent Squad. But here's the thing: if they're going to kill the guard, why even hide? I don't know. 82. So, all right. So, they go in there, and turns out that it's not there what they were looking for. They think that the information they had was incorrect. So they're gonna have to go around, see where they found the controls that they're looking for. And it says here, our employer would prefer us not being spotted, so they're gonna need to create a diversion, and so they're going to let go of the animals here. So hopefully that will create, and you can see here, this whoever this one is, breaks the cage through, and out come the animals here. So good panel by Steve Ditko. So they go, we'll continue the search, and they go, do you think they'll attack a human? And this one says, we can only hope. So, oh, poor Tony's date is getting plastered here. This guy here comes and tells them that the guard is dead. And Tony says, hey, get back out there. Or no, get back out there and don't move. So, he's gonna call his security guy and says, find out who this Janie is, because they said here that he was on the phone. He mentioned a Janie. So, the guy Vic here tells him, I will find out. This guy here tells him, hey, it has to be a coincidence. I'm sure the guard's death has nothing to do with you. Tony says, I'd like to believe that, but, it's most likely not. He thinks they're after the sophisticated computer equipment, and so they're going to go into the control room, and the drunk date is like, hey, wait for me. So off she goes behind him. So he's going to go look at the monitor, and of course sees the zoo animals that are loose, and the lady's like, Tony's like, well, I better go call somebody, and she's like, who? A dog catcher. And he goes, someone else. So of course during this time he carries the Iron Man suit in the briefcase, so he goes and changes to Iron Man. This is actually a very nice panel here, and off he goes. Nice panel there. So Tony thinks here, the guard's death might have been a coincidence, but then now letting the animals out, so he thinks something's up. So he's gonna investigate further after he gets those animals caught here. So you can see here that he doesn't kill it; he puts them to sleep. So off he goes, and he's gonna put them all down without hurting them. So, all right. So once he puts them away here, he's going after the gorilla here. But of course, one of the members of the Serpent Squad is in there, and he goes and kills the gorilla. Poor little gorilla here. All right. And now the date yells out again. Nice use of screen tones here, because here comes the tiger, Tony catches her out of the way and puts her in there and says, "Stay here." All right, and Janie was the guy's dead wife, but they found something else. That there's a Stark has a competitor that hired 3 freelance criminals, and that is most likely some kind of sabotage. Again, nice use of screen tones. He says they hired the Serpent Card, and Tony says, "Hey, double the security here." So Tony's gonna leave and tells her, "Do not leave this room." I love this inking. This looks really nice. And Tony's like, with any luck, she'll pass out. So he goes and sees something, and he goes, "I thought I saw something. Guess not. I guess his armor is not quite as sophisticated in 1982." And um, these guys here are putting this looks to be a bomb. So she's inside the control room, of course, and she's gonna drink. But then this other member of the Serpent Squad is I don't think they ever said their names. I know the Serpent Squad is Anaconda, Death Adder, and Black Mamba, but I don't know who's what. I will assume maybe this is Black Mamba, and I don't know. Is this Death Adder? I don't know. So anyway, they get the micro scanner out and puts it, and they go. He didn't realize that this could be made into a weapon. She says whatever can scan a body can disrupt them. The moment our employer heard of the scanner, they realized that. So I like this. You can't hurt me. I belong to the Union. And so I'll assume this is Black Mamba. Finish her and let us depart. And this one says, "Quiet, someone's coming." And it's one of the people in there. And they're looking for Tony Stark. And he says, "Your secretary phoned. She said you should get in." And he's like, "You people aren't authorized to be here." Of course, they shoot him. And this is a nice here. It's almost like a continuation, but of course, I like this panel here. And he is dead. Unfortunately, he was their guinea pig here. And so now they're gonna try it on the woman, and Iron Man comes in, and they said don't move or they're gonna kill her. And so he goes Anaconda. So the girl is Anaconda here. Remove the helmet, and they're gonna crush his head. And so turns out he uses an electrical charge here, and uses whatever this inside portion is, some repulsor beams that are probably in there, and he hits the liquor, which is of course flammable. And then once that, he uses it. So this would have been the Death Adder. Perfect. Okay, so I guessed correctly. Although it does look like one foot's going this way and the other foot is going the other way. That part is weird, but the lady's getting away. Tony Stark pushes or punches Death Adder, and so only one to go, and then he goes no, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And it's Bethany McCabe, I think it is, whose character. Feel free to go into that website, that Marvel website, if you want to know more about her. So, anyway, he's like, "Well, no, that can't be. It's not possible." And suddenly, it's turning into someone else. Now it's turning into Pepper's Potts, and he's a little bit, most likely it has to do with the alcohol there, but then he realizes that it is one, it's just an illusion, and it's one of the members of the Serpent Squad here. and shoots Tony. And it feels heat even through the armor. He's feeling the effects, but the armor seems to have absorbed most of it and is able to punch her. And he's not feeling very well. He's gonna go in there and take a look at himself and see how the damage is. Of course, he's got a couple of black eyes, a little bit flush. He's bleeding, but it seems like the armor protected him. He puts it back on, and Muffy's screaming for help, and she's got the illusion there's snakes everywhere, and they're crawling all over her, most likely because she's a bit drunk. So this actually ends the issue. So now Iron Man 161 here. And we continue through Denny O'Neill's, and here we have Moon Knight. Ed Hannigan and Al Milgrom do the cover here. Very nice cover here. I love the thick brush. And so we got this looks like his cape, but perhaps just kind of like a double cover, like one part and another part here. Love this Marvel fanfare. So, all right. If the Moon Man should fail, now Denny O'Neil is still writing. However, Luke McDonnell, who will most likely be the penciler to complete most of his run, will be the penciler here. Steve Mitchell also would be he also inked Detective Comics with Norm Breyfogle. So Iron Man here is testing his armor in an underwater here. So you can see here this was a controlled experiment here. C says, well, my questions are answered. I need to know everything, or everything I needed to know, I pretty much, and says, thank you, and it was a pleasure. So now he's going to change, again, putting everything in that armor. So, all right. The reason he was testing his armor underwater is he's going to be going into this thing called Project Neptune. You can see it's underwater base there. So and look, AIM, which is idea something mechanics. What is AIM? Advanced. A for advanced idea mechanics. So and it was right down there here. All right. So they're overtaking Project Neptune, which is a basically an underwater power generating facility here. And here you can see he presses this button and off comes these things here. So they're waiting here for Tony, or Tony here is with these people here. So these are two other investors that are going to go on to see if Project Neptune is worth investing in. And Tony's like, well, that's why we're going down there. So they're going to go ride in this little submarine to take them in there. And so off they go. So he tells them, they're going down and they'll feel, pressure and stuff like that. So it takes about 20 minutes, and Tony's looking through the periscope here, kind of telling them a little bit the escape pods and all that. We mention things because they're gonna be important, basically, for the story. That's why they mention it. So up comes the submarine, and AIM is there already. So Tony, good thing he packs his armor. Nobody wonders why he's always carrying a briefcase. Nobody else carries a briefcase, just him. So they all they kind of look like they're going to give up, But this guy punches one of them, and off they go. And so he's gonna try to get his armor. Nobody knows he's Iron Man, so he's just looking for a place to be able to get the armor. And so he opens the suitcase and gets dressed, and off he goes. So good thing that, of course, in the beginning he was testing the armor. Well, good thing he tested the armor, because it became important for the story. So Iron Man gets off, so that gets out, so that he can try to get them from behind. He doesn't want to risk the hostages getting hurt by a front attack here. So he says he's got to go, but he's rigged the place up, and they're taking the submarine. Um, and he says, nope, the escape pods. We have other plans for the boat here. So it looks like they're all leaving here. So, and Iron Man notices that and says they're just leaving one pod. So he says that means there's no means of escape for all the hostages unless I can reach the sub. So here we go. And the sub is blown up. So things are not going very well here for our hero. And so he says, hey, Mr. Stark called me. I'm here. And these maintenance robots have been reprogrammed to repel intruders. So he is going to get or break it. So, all right, but we are still, they're still doing its thing. So we're going to just kind of move along here. He uses his repulsor beam slowly, because this was magnetized to destroy the thing here. So, all right. So another one here, and I guess this is because we need to have action. Otherwise, this would turn. That's the whole point of all these robots here, is just to keep the action going here. You see another one here. Why this thing would have so many, and I know that some of it is these drones just perform maintenance and stuff like that, but it doesn't seem like this is something that a power station would have. But hey, so Iron Man is again getting rid of this one here. So So they let Iron Man know there's only one airpod. They were able to get to the radio. The Coast Guard will be sending another submarine, but it's gonna take like 15 hours. And then suddenly there's a sound, and of course we gotta we gotta do something. And basically it opens the thing to let the water in. And so they go. This one must have been programmed to kill everybody if the plan went wrong. And then it gets the airlock in here, and they're gonna try to close it here to keep the water so that they can get out here. He says it's part plastic, so it can't be welded. So we got to make sure that there's enough sense, and so that we get enough thread here. So they go into. Oh, by the way, they mentioned she has asthma, so now she, of course, is having an asthma attack, which makes me go, why doesn't she have her inhaler? If she's got all that money, then she should have an inhaler. So this guy here is using the radio to see if there's anyone that can help with how to get that thing closed. And so he says, let's put you in the last pod, and the Coast Guard can be there in a half hour. And he says, so they're gonna put her in there. He says, no, wait, don't put her in there. And they go, why not? And he says, because I'm taking the pod, step aside. And they're like, you're condemning her to death. And he's like, listen, I hope the old bird lives to be 100, but it's not. But if not, tough. It's my skin I'm worried about. So he takes the last pod here. Um, Iron Man, of course, says that he discovered the hole is in the outer skin. Uh, happened during the fight, and to close the inner airlock. And they go, "You'll be trapped." And he goes, "Can't be helped. Do it." And so he does. Um, and so Tony says, there's he's got a 6 hour air supply in there, so he's got to figure out how to get things going here. So they rescue this guy, um, and so he got out without any decompression. All right, so um, and he go, "I'll take you to the doctor." He goes, "Never mind that. I've got to reach Lower Manhattan fast. Several dozen lives depend on it." So they're like, "Hey, you gotta fill a report," and he goes, "Send it to my office." He goes, I hated to act like such a heel and abandon them, particularly Mrs. Host, but she probably wouldn't have survived the sudden change in pressure anyway, and unless someone locates that inventor Flowers, they'll all die. There's the cab." So he goes in there, just where I left it, and so he has to find that guy that used to be Daryl Flowers. So it turns out that this guy here was Moon Knight. So we wondered why, and it's been 15 pages, and Moon Knight was on the cover. Heck, I even forgot. So Moon Knight got out to be able to see if he can help all the people out there. And so the water still keeps coming here, and Tony's still trying to keep this closed. And so Moon Knight now is using his things to see if he can find that guy there that had designed that place. He was fired from the company. And so he's going to go down into this bar here, where, of course, all the people see him here. So he's about to go fight again. This is just to keep up with the action here. And so he's asking where Flowers is. That's the guy that designed that thing, and this guy's like, I have no idea. So, and time is running out because they believe Iron Man has uh, maybe an hour. And you can see on the television they're asking about Daryl Flowers here, and if they can that he can call that number that's on the computer screen here. Um, and so you can see here, these people are like, "When's our buddy Flowers supposed to arrive?" And then in about 15 minutes, Flowers, of course, is involved in drugs, and so it's one of those things here. Denny O'Neil loves to create real situations for people. Denny O'Neil is a fantastic writer. Rest in peace, Denny. So he says here he's gonna be real unhappy when he don't get the dope we promised him. Yeah, he's probably gonna go tell the cops. And he goes, "No, he won't, because I'll be curing his misery permanent here." So Moon Knight, meanwhile, is like holding this guy and says, "Last chance. You find anything out?" And he goes, "My diligent inquiries may have borne some small fruit. The address of the city's newest drug uh, uh, vendors or whatever." So uh, he thanks him and on his way. And so Tony now has everything has it's now full of water, and he's running out of air. And meanwhile, here is Flowers here, and Moon Knight has arrived and dismantles the two dudes here. And he says, "Are you Flowers?" And he goes, "Yes." All right. And then he gets this to go get him. This ship here. Sorry, the helicopter. So Flowers gives them instructions. This guy gets it, and they are able to seal it. And even Iron Man is surprised. So now, the airlock is sealed here. So this water's rushing in. They're panicked, but they said, nope, that's just the water that was trapped in between the walls. Um, and so they're like, he's like, what? How did we do it? And he says, it wasn't them that figured it out. Some guy called Moon Knight located flowers. They tell Tony there. And so here comes Iron Man here. He's gonna go find AIM. What AIM was gonna do is they were basically gonna hold the industrial secrets for ransom and for payment, and then they would tell them how to save the people. That's essentially what they were gonna do. And Iron Man quickly dispatches them, and once he does, he goes back into the sub, changes back to Tony Stark, and then inside the sub here, and then they're like, hey, you can come out of hiding, and he's like, everything's safe, and he goes, glad to hear it. So nice and wrapped up. So now we're at Iron Man 162. Great cover here. These covers were really well done. Right now, covers in this era are basically glorified pinups. Here, they really gave you what the action was, and just very cool. So, all right. So the Stark International is being attacked by these World War II airplanes here, while Tony is making repairs on his armor. The Menace Within. Here we have our Denny O'Neil. Mike Vosberg is the penciler with Steve Mitchell as the inker. But it's going to be that Luke McDonald, I think, that will be the penciler for most of this run. So here they go, making a menace. The guard goes on the radio about what's going quick, that they're going to need Iron Man. And so Iron Man, of course, goes out. This is going to fall on this lady, but Tony destroys it. And here comes the ambulance. And so he's going to go to look at these airplanes, and there's nobody there. These airplanes were being controlled remotely. And so he is going to, he sees here that it's got a receiver, and it's going to go toward the ocean, that one. And so he's going to deal now. So he dealt with the first one, so now he's going to deal with this one, who shoots at it, and Tony ends up destroying this one. Great panel here. So nice vertical panel here, and he goes, the armor protected me from the blast, but he does seem to have a concussion. He's not doing very well here. And look at this. They already started fixing this arch. What the heck? This is something here. So, all right. That is quick. So they asked if there's any injuries, just a couple people, but everything else is they're okay. And so Tony's like, we need to find out who did this, and they're like, yep, consider it done. And then Tony's called from off panel here. Now check these out. These are headphones with a cassette player that was built into them. Made them about 100 of them. So even during this time, they were kind of creating, things that now, but look at the size of them. Goodness gracious here. And so they're going to be selling them out to other places. And so he gets in his car here. And talks to Mrs. Arbogast and says, is there anything hot? And she goes, quite a bit, Mr. Stark. And so this is his secretary. So Mrs. A informs him of prior appointments, upcoming appointments that he has. And so there's a box that he says, you can check it out. And she opens it, and it's this big gun there. So and so as he's driving, you see this car here. Now this car apparently is going very fast. You can see it from the smoke, and he's going into that tree and crashes. And so of course he changes into Iron Man, and he's gonna go and get him to the doctor. And so they're like, sorry, Iron Man, we couldn't do anything. And he says, hey, Mr. Stark, we'll need an autopsy report on his desk. And I like how he says by midnight, as if they were. And look at that, she's wearing the headphones here. That's pretty cool. The doctor says sure, and they says, did you know him? And of course, this is one of Stark's employees here. And this is hilarious as Iron Man is making a phone call. Like, he doesn't have that available to his in his suit. And they're like, huh, she's not answering, and she never leaves before 5. So something's up also with the headphones here. So Iron Man decides to leave the hospital. So about an hour after he leaves, he's at a penthouse here, and you can see he's most likely on a date. And so she's like, when was the last time I saw you? Paris in 79? And he goes, Rio in 80 in the film festival. So here comes this other person. You got drinks in his hands, which of course they give it to him. You're gonna see the theme, and Denny O'Neil is starting to set up the theme, and this theme is actually going to take over almost 30 issues of it. So this is a big story that is planned, much more than Demon in the Bottle. Demon in the Bottle was just a few issues. This thing is going to go quite a bit. And look at these nice screen tones here. So. And so he looks at the drink. He's like, "What's the harm? Maybe wake up with a headache. Maybe not liking whatever I did. But the hurt would go away for a while. The pain of watching Barry Carson die in my arms, of being helpless." And he says, "Of course, the pain would still be there, doubled, and I'd be too muddled to do anything constructive, to find anything that killed a Barry." So he decides, I just hate myself. So he tosses the drink, but, keep in mind that this is going to be a very long story here, which will lead into James Rhodes of taking over Iron Man. So they're like, "Where are you off to, Tony?" And he's like, "To be a man." So another nice vertical panel here, and he's now at headquarters. And goes into the office, and of course someone's waiting with that weapon there. And he's looking through his to see if there is the accident, and there's nothing there. And he goes, Tony goes, "Who's there?" And they shoot but miss. They hit that lamp instead and shoot again. And Tony's down, but you can see him grabbing that lamp, and he tosses it, and here comes the security, and they're like, "Give me the flashlight," and it turns out it is Mrs. Arbogast. She tried to kill him. So, all right. I already have my suspicions as to what's going on, so let's see if you guys have the same suspicions that I do. So I like this here. The doctor says she'll recover, but she's in a coma for a couple days. Come on, people. All right. So, because apparently Tony threw that lamp at her too hard and knocked her out. Oh, goodness gracious. I love it here. So she can't be questioned. And so Tony's like, what the heck is happening? Barry Carson hits the tree. Now Mrs. Arbogast tries to shoot me. And the head of security says, "You don't know the half of it. Since noon, we've had about 5 small fires, 3 fist fights, 18 minor accidents." So, he goes, "You and I are going to inspect the plant inch by inch, starting at 9 in the morning. We'll find what's behind those problems and eliminate it. That you can bet on." So they come through, and now everyone is wearing, you notice everyone is wearing these headsets. So suddenly the train stops. So, So we can probably figure out that everything that's going on has to do with these headsets here. And so here they hit Vic, and now they're all going to go after him. And look at this. They're going to try and kill him and trying to tear him apart. And look at this. Everyone with the headsets. And Tony's like, I got to get my armor on or they're going to kill me here. So, but he's not able to. So he uses the repulsor ray to create a hole through this monorail, gets out, and then puts the armor up, and then gets in there and repulsors them. And Martinelli's like, "What happened?" And Iron Man says, "I'll explain later." Here, it just takes off the headsets here, and the guy's like, "Whoa, where am I?" So it looks like Iron Man figured it out. So off he goes here with Martinelli, and now he is going to look into the headsets here. So Tony goes, "The explosion this morning must have rattled my brain. I should have guessed it. There's a microwave receiver in here operating on a frequency up the top of the electromagnetic spectrum. If I patch it into my helmet amplifier, I can hear that being broadcast. Attention, tattoo. Implement Plan Ultra, 1800 hours." And so Iron Man is like, 1800 hours is 6 p.m., 15 minutes from now. The question is, what exactly is Plan Ultra and who is Tattoo? So off we go. We'll find out everything here. So, and so, after the attack, Iron Man figures out that the people are being mind controlled here. So he is now going to find out where that person is. And so he's going to go to the one who created the headset, which is this guy here. Iron Man comes through, and it turns out that this is that saboteur they were talking about, Tattoo. And he's like, "You penetrated my ruse." So he says, "It took a while. I'm a little dim sometimes, but eventually I arrive at the answer. You staged the attack yesterday, didn't you? So you could take Bart's place in the confusion." Because Bart had been injured. And so once he was injured, then he took his place, and he says, "Yep." And so he had covered his face here. "These concealed the fact that you don't look exactly like the general article." And he says, "The plastic surgery proved inadequate. We had to improvise." All that? Goodness me. So where's Bart? "Beyond help, beyond harm. Food for the fishes." So he's killed. "Mister, I want to leave you in a bloody heap on the floor, but I won't. Instead, I'll ask 2 questions. First, who's your boss? Second, what's Plan Ultra?" And he says, "I'm unable to reveal the name of my employer. The information has been temporarily erased from my memory. As for Plan Ultra, you may as well know in 4 minutes a command will be broadcast to the 500 men and women on the premises. They will be ordered to destroy the nearest object and kill the nearest person. Your powers are extraordinary. You may be able to prevent 5 tragedies or 6 or a dozen, but not all of them. Within an hour, Stark International will be a smoking ruin littered with corpses." And so he shoots Iron Man. You're joking, right? And he destroys the gun. Had to make the gesture, and he pushes him to the wall, knocking him down. So I did. All right, so Iron Man is going to go through. I can't get a fix on this transmitter until it's broadcast, and then it will be too late. Once the order is given, a smoking ruin littered with corpses. Tattoo said that all too accurately. I've seen how decent men and women can be turned into mindless beasts. So he's running through, and he grabs that. "Pardon me, miss, you don't want this," and he destroys it. "One person say it, but I can't confiscate every deadly unit." And so he's got 30 seconds, not with less than 30 seconds remaining. but there has to be an answer. I've got to think. And so we look at the arch here. So we're being given the answers. It began with the bombing of the arch, an excuses substitute tattoo for Bart Ansley. That was one of the reasons, he said. And so 20 seconds left, 15 seconds. The others got to remember the bombs hit. I chased the aircraft, the ambulance, and the repair crews. And he says they came almost immediately before anyone had a chance to call them. The transmitter had to be close. Those UHF waves won't travel far. It has to be been installed by phony repair crew. So 10 seconds in the arch. So here we are. So it's about to give the instructions, and look at this beautiful panel here. Nice splash page as Iron Man destroys the arch. And so he comes in and says, now, mister, I'm taking you to the scientists who will unerase your memory. You're going to sing like a battalion of canaries. And he says, I'm afraid not. You see, the last syllable of that kill message would have triggered a small explosion in my skull, released an antidote to the poison I was fed. My employer does not tolerate failure. And he's like, who's your employer? Who's your murderer? He says, man. And then he dies here. And so, was he trying to say Mandarin? Could he be back after all these years? Everybody seems to be normal. Somebody's gunning for me. Somebody absolutely ruthless and with vast resources. I have the feeling that only one thing will keep him from getting me, and that is getting him first. Next issue, the plot thickens. The bloodiest blessings. So, Invincible Iron Man 163, The Challenge of the Chessmen, with another cover by Jim Starlin here. Nice cover here. All right. So, we got our credits here. Denny O'Neil, Luke McDonnell, and Steve Mitchell. And he is trying to put out a fire. This is a direct continuation from the previous issue and Knight's Errand. And so there's a fire here, and we've got one of the people here who's still, it doesn't look like he was able to stop all these headphone things even after he destroyed the thing. So he grabs the guy, takes him out, destroys the headset here, and is going to put out the fire. The guy's a little confused as to what happened. He's going to use these extinguishers that are inside his repulsor, so there's that. And then sees a woman who is damaged by a collapse of whatever this thing was here, and Iron Man removes it here and breaks the door, grabs her. I love this part. Is it bad? And she's like, yes, very bad, I'm afraid. I don't know why I found that funny, but I did. And he goes, I can tell she's got broken bones, internal injuries, so there's gonna be and she's like, you're much nicer than an ambulance here. So he takes her to the hospital here. I love this part. The doctor says, you should start your own hospital. You bring us more casualties than anything. And he's like, Tony Stark will want a complete report on that young lady's condition tonight. Understood. As if, whatever. And the guy's like, okay. And so Tony leaves. And so later that day here, Tony, here's Rhodey, James Rhodes here. And Tony is analyzing the explosives that the saboteur used. And he traces the chemicals to a man named Aloysius Lafferty from New Mexico here. So, Rhodey asks, I'm not sure what's happening. And he's like, somebody's trying to put Stark International out of business. Somebody with great resources and very ruthless. Of course, if these things are over 40 years old, so you should know who it is, but that's all right. And so he tells James Rhodes, hey, get the plane ready. We're going to New Mexico. but first he's gonna visit that lady who was injured. He says he feels responsible because he got damaged or she got hurt in the property, which of course he would be anyway. He says, when you feel better, I'll take you out to dinner. So, love it. All right, so here we go. He's ready to go, and down to New Mexico they go. Meanwhile, at that moment, you can see someone here playing chess here. Stark and his metal-plated bodyguard seemed more formidable than we anticipated. So that means the game can begin in earnest. Attend me my knight. And so I trust you shall be able to put my foe in check. And yes, Majesty, that I can do. So, gotta love comic books. For I am bold and swift and deadly. So, and so these two kind of give him a hard time. Of course, this is Knight, and then Bishop, and Rook or something. Anyway, this guy's like, quiet, both of you. I'm certain one night, our night will be equal to the task. And then this guy comes through and says, hey, Stark's going to New Mexico. And so he tells the knight to head over there. And he says, sure. All right. I love paraphrasing. All right. So on the airplane here, they're saying that weather's moving in, but it's not going to be causing any problems. He's like, you do good work. Remind me to give you a raise. And he says, I do, twice a month. Well, next time. And then you hear suddenly, and then you can see that something's going on, and he's spilling his drink here, and it looks like that something's hit, and it's not the lightning. How did he get there so freaking fast here? So there's the knight here hitting the engine here. And so, of course, time to put on the Iron Man armor. It does seem silly to keep it there. You know, I've mentioned it before, but it is a sign of the times. So this year is from 82, 83. So down he goes. The airplane's going down. And Iron Man's going to try and keep it afloat here. And do a quick weld job. So he fixed the engine just like that. So he goes back in and just opens the door like that. Wouldn't cause all that decompression, but hey, all right. And Tony says, flying smooth. And so they get down here. This lady recognizes him and says, hey, remember me? He says, yep. And so she says, how are you? She says, hungry. So and says, perhaps you can join me for breakfast. And so he keeps hitting on people. So elsewhere here, and they're back here. Our attempt to make Mr. Stark demise appear to be an accident failed. I hoped it might, he says here. Tell the knight he must deal with Stark directly. And so the guy says immediately. So back in New Mexico, these two are having dinner, or is it breakfast or something? So she says she's free the rest of the day. He says, I'm not, so I'll call you. And so Rhodey was waiting for him, and so Rhodey tells him the jet won't be ready, and that Martinelli, they located a Lafferty guy. They forwarded him a map. Tony says, great, you can return to the airfield, Tony. I'll be in touch before nightfall. So, and so he calls the lady in the hospital, Mumji. She got the flowers. He says, I just want you to be happy. I'll phone again tomorrow. So, and so now he is going to visit this Rafferty person. So Tony puts on the Iron Man suit here. I like this here. I'm certain he fashioned the explosives used on my plant. Not that I don't No, he, not that I don't know he did it for money. I'll just have to make him tell me whose signature was on the check. So, all right, so off he goes. Look at this. This is so silly. And so he's like, Stark's in room 517. And so off he goes here and pushes Jim Rhodes to the side. Jim Rhodes had already left, so he wasn't in the room here. And he's like, it's empty. Then he's gone to Lafferty's. Follow him. And so off they go here. And so how silly that the things just come through. I sweat. I kind of draw my own comic book, and I sweat over all these details. And sometimes you just look at people. They're like, "All right, this looks good enough." So, all right. So it looks like the place is rigged here, and it does nothing as Tony continues to walk through, and he comes through, and here's Lafferty, and he's like, "Hey, want something to drink?" And he pushes it away. "No drink. Information. You recently assembled some bombs. Who commissioned you for the job?" And he says, "I don't have the guy's name. He must be Irish here. I swear on my mother's grave, but the payment came from a bank in Scotland." And he says, "Which one?" He says, "The Bank of Kildonan." And so some stuff here. The knight has now appeared, and so he challenges Iron Man. And so after he challenges, he's like, "I've already fought a Black Knight and a Dreadnought, so who may you be?" "My master simply calls me the Knight." "Oh, and what's his name?" "I'll carve the answer in your gullet." And so off they go. And so we're going to have a fight, and I'll just kind of keep going through here because the wording is there just to kind of slow down the reader. There's nothing really that is important as far as the story goes here. So and so Faraday is like, 30 years I've been a terrorist, arsonist, and bomber, and I've never seen the likes of the two of them. I think it's high time I retire. I'll just pack a few things for the journey and bid the neighborhood farewell. So Tony sees him escaping here and goes, I can't worry about him now. Not when I may be the one in charge away from the grave. So here comes the knight again, and he decides here, he looks here, whatever he's done, he's super speed stunt. He's ended up near some large object, the mountain, the house. Maybe he needs some large object to home in on. If so, I have a chance. I'll drift toward the explosive shed. And so there he goes, and Tony moves or uses the repulsor, causing an explosion, knocking the knight down. The knight falls, and so he takes the lance, grabs the guy, punches him again, and says, "Your Majesty, help!" And he says, "I can do nothing for you. Who are you talking to?" And he takes it out. He says, "Whoever you are, I'll not tell you, or 'tis my life." And so, he picks him up here, and so it looks like Tony took care of the knight. And so they said the knight is taken, and he says yes, but the game is not lost. So he removes the knight here from his and so for I have other gambits, other pieces. I'll see Stark in check yet. So all right, so here we go. On the airplane here and heading back to New York, and it looks like that lady is waiting for him in the airport. Tony Stark has developed some kind of infatuation with this lady, and so they're going to go out to dinner, and gives Rhodey the helmet. So that is, of course, now the end of this issue. And so now we're at Iron Man 164 here. And we have Iron Man going against the Bishops here. So Brent Anderson actually inks this cover. So that's actually kind of cool. Brent Anderson did a couple issues of X-Men, and then he did, of course, God Loves Men Kill, and did Astro City with Kurt Busiek. So, all right, beware the Bishop. So, all right, here we go. So, Deadly Blessings, we have the same creative team as last issue. Denny O'Neil, rest in peace. Mark Grenwold, rest in peace. So I don't know about these other two. So, all right, Deadly Blessings. And so this is the night, and the Bishop is getting him out of a jail. And so here come the guards, but the two have escaped here, and the Knight says, I was afraid the master would be angry at me for failing to slay the Iron Man. Not angry, my son, more like disappointed. He feels you transgressed against the faith he placed in you. So although he holds you blameless, you have erred, and thus you must be punished. And so he creates energy so he can't hold on anymore, and he falls to his death. So, and the Bishop says, peace, my son, peace forever. So, and now we're at the top of the World Trade Center. And he is with that Muji here on a nice romantic dinner here. So, like I said, he's for some reason is infatuated. But he gets a call from Vic Martinelli here. And the guy says, it's important. And Tony's like, it had better be. And so Tony asks if he's got any results on that night investigation. So they traced it to Glen Travel in northern Scotland. But then he says, hey, somebody busted him out of the jail, but then killed him. And he says, have Rhodey fuel the jet and file a flight plan to Scotland and stay on top of it, Vic. And so she says, problem with one of your employees? He says, my chief of security, I've got to go to Scotland tonight. Sorry to cut our date short. And she's like, oh, don't apologize. You paid for all my bills and all that stuff. And so here we go. Because, hey, it's Iron Man and he gets girls. So I hope you guys don't mind me just narrating as opposed to reading like I normally do, but I'm trying to get this run done quickly. So I do apologize. So here, I think this is supposed to be a Porsche, this yellow car. Anyway, he's calling Mrs. Arbogast. So he's funny. He can call Mrs. Arbogast from the Porsche, but Iron Man has to use a payphone to to call. That's just funny. He says, hey, do we know anyone in Scotland? She says, that's a funny coincidence, Mr. Stark. I just got a call from the Laird of Glen Travail, invited you to discuss a possible deal. And Tony's like, coincidence? Hardly, Mrs. A. So now this guy goes, the American has accepted the Laird's invitation, master. And as I knew he would. Excellent, excellent. So the knight has failed to checkmate him. I trust the bishop will fare better. And so they're going to pack Iron Man. It's funny. Pack him up. Put him down. And I don't know how all this thing fits in that suitcase. It's beyond me. But that's all right. And Tony wonders, who's the real me? Is it Iron Man or is it, Tony? As he kind of just watches it. So, all right. So here comes the jet here. And he's like, let's get to Scotland as soon as possible here. So, and so from behind it's you hear Tony, and it looks like she snuck in in here. He's surprised here. I overheard you speaking of the journey of your airplane, and I convinced your pilot, Mr. Rhodes, that I was also to come. I have a feeling of danger, and I wish to share it with you. And so something's up. So we're gonna see what's up here. So all right, so they're getting ready to land, and off they go here. So now they're going to this Glen Travail here, and look at this guy in his full Scottish garb here. She's still wearing her broken arm here. Look at the dog barking. So pretty good. All the information you need is right there. So this guy is the Laird of Travail, whatever that means. So all right. So he invites them to spend the night, gives them each his room, and until morning then, Tony. Till then, just so what? Like she wouldn't be expecting something. So he goes into the room here. And so Tony knows that there is most likely video and audio in there. So he takes the Iron Man armor, or not the armor, the helmet out, and he does jam any transmission. So he decides to put on his armor, and he is going to take a look and investigate. This is a great, this dude, and it's unfortunate because I don't think he did too much other than this, but he does a really good job on Iron Man, I think. So even does the little Bob Layton marks here. So he goes, bars in the windows, cheap bars. Well, and so off he goes to go look. Suddenly, clang here. And now we've got a battle with the bishop here. So we're going to kind of go through this part really quick because, again, there is not much to talk about here. But Mumji here sees Iron Man. So Iron Man hits him with the repulsor rays, but doesn't really work. Bishop hits him with whatever that mallet thing, and he's like, that hurt. So all right, so this thing can help him fly and help him, strong and stuff. So he busts in through the wall and wakes up Jim, and here we go. So again, there's really not much to narrate here because a lot of the wording is just what they're doing here. But he realized that the staff is the problem, and this staff is what's giving him. But he's not able to take it away here. So, and that thing knocked off his repulsors here. So, off he goes here. And whoever this is, I know who this is, but if you guessed who this is, that's great. He goes, the bishop does well, and this guy here, what is this, a rook? Do not count the enemy out yet, master. There has been no checkmate. And the mystery guy says, but there will be, rook, and you regret that your skills will be no part of it. He says, yes. And so they continue fighting here. Again, just kind of, look at the sheep. Just kind of narrating here. So, they're watching here on the video screen, and look who it is. So they are at the estate of that guy that is playing all this. So they continue watching, and so kind of back and forth. And so this guy here, enjoying the bra show, are ye? I have special cameras and microphone and these odd walls to see all. And Jim says, I'm not real interested in the technical details, Lord or Laird or whatever you're called. Shellhead's in trouble and I'm going to help. And he's like, are ye now? And he's like, you shouldn't mistaken my fat for flab. And hits him and knocks him down here. Will you watch the rest of it with me, lass? And so I have a feeling she's in on it here. So here the bishop has him here, and it's got the staff on him here, and looks like he's gonna make a hole in his armor here. I love again the screen tones here. And so here we go. He throws a rock, knocks off his hat, and gets out. And you can see the hat had the circuitry, and grabs the staff. Once he gets the staff, he takes him up. Kind of, you can see him here. He starts swinging him, and eventually he goes. He breaks the staff, tosses it, and then catches the guy here. But he ended up fainting, so he's gonna go in there, and he knocks on the door, but ends up busting it through. That's why I was like, why is he knocking on the door here? So he busts through, and so now we got this guy here, and he says he's got Tony wants answers, but he's like, why don't you look at the TV here? And we've got Jim Rhodes, with spiders crawling on him. He says, only not so we. Those crawlies already, their poison is coursing through his blood. And he goes, how long does he have? In an hour, it'll finish him. An hour. You've beaten the knight and the bishop. 'Tis the rook's turn to save Rose. You must best the rook. And where is the rook? And he says, as you know, in chess, the rook is also known as the castle. You're standing on the rook. This whole building, he says, aye. Best ye be starting. Ye haven't much time, and neither has your Mr. Rhodes. So, nice trap and ending in another cliffhanger. And so we are going to go to the conclusion of this video for today. Iron Man 165. So there's some videos that I've done in the past, and I'm going to redo them. I just didn't like them. So we're going to revisit this era, as I mentioned. I've covered some, but I hated the videos that were done very early on. So, all right. Cover by Luke McDonough with Mitchell here. And I like this cover. So, all right. So, Endgame. And we see here as Iron Man is looking at Jim Rhodes. And look at these things of coming from behind him. Denny O'Neil, Luke McDonough, Steve Mitchell. So everybody. Rick Parker, by the way, was the letterer for Todd McFarlane's run on Amazing Spider-Man. So the spears hit him, but really don't do any much damage to him. And so that dude has vanished. And so Iron Man says, no, and I'll find you. Count on it, Laird. No matter where you hide, I'll find you. So, all right. I almost called this dude by his name, but again, I'm keeping it in suspenseful here. So, the knight failed to slay Iron Man, and then the bishop. Now it's your turn, Rook. Will you also fail me? And he says, no, master, I will not. For the very castle he walks in has 3 traps. I myself devise with utmost cunning. 3, but trust me, he will not survive the first. Oh, but he will. So, all right. Well, we know they're not going to kill Iron Man, so it's kind of like in a TV show or in a movie. You know they're not going to kill the main person. So, all right. Here we go. So, Tony decides I'm going to save by following this cable here. And he uses his thing here as light. And goes through this door here, and he says, "I hear something falling." And of course, it's this big man. These elaborate plans. Oh my goodness! I love comic books, people. This and the Rook smiles here, and so 6,000 pounds, so 3 tons. And Iron Man here is crushed beneath them, but he is going to do Spider-Man esque and get the heck out of here. And boom. Very Steve Ditko Spider-Man esque, and he not only does he, but he pushes it out of the way here. But the his repulsors are damaged by his fight with Bishops, and his batteries are almost exhausted here. So he continues here. Uh, he's going to continue following, and here. So your mighty granite block failed. I admit, Master, that I underestimate him, but my second trap is truly splendid. He shall not escape. I will go to witness his slaughter myself. So it looks like Rook is a small diminutive, like a I don't know what the little person. So, all right. And this guy says, Master, I have a report from the United States. We have word that Stark's investigators may be getting close to knowledge of you. And he says, keep me informed. And so here at Stark International, Martinelli and Mrs. Arbogast are speaking. And Vic is like, I think I'm into them. I think I've managed to figure out who's in it. There's a group of European and Oriental industrialists who want to form an organization, beat the various antitrust laws, and Stark won't play ball. Mrs. A is like, whatever, it's not her cup of tea or whatever. She's not into the business thing. And so, all right, so Iron Man continues here. Again, he's lighting the way. He's following that nice big long cable. And the Rook is seeing him through the cameras here. And he's like, he's almost at the next trap. And so he is going to open this. And suddenly he is caught here. And you can see that there. And the Rook is very happy because he's like, I can't believe, he's like, I got him finally. And so you can see that has opened here. And he's like, a clever system of counterweights released when he opened the door. It will pull him apart. But if his armor protects him, he will still perish, trapped in there. He will starve. No man can escape that pull. Well, he just moved a 6,000-pound block. I'm quite sure he will manage to do fine. So he's probably going to use the remaining thing, and he uses the repulsors from the bottoms, and look at him, and he has escaped. And so he's going to continue on falling, and he's like, crud. All right, so Tony's going and flying and goes through that door. Very nice here. And it's the girlfriend here, and he has found her. And so she appears to be unharmed. And she asks about Mr. Stark, and he's like, he's fine. I have a job to do. I'll return to you shortly. So he feels bad for leaving her, but he's got to find a gym. And so in this part in the United States, there's a television here and showing Tony and what appears to be his new girlfriend. And then this is Pepper Spots. And I think this, I don't know. It's her son, it says. And she's just remembering a man she used to know, she says. So they're back in Scotland. So the Rook is making plans, and then Iron Man goes in there, and he closes the door, and yet another elaborate trap. It's supposed to be some kind of acid gas mist, and it'll dissolve anything. And so off it goes, and it dissolves this, and you can see now it is dissolving the armor, and so he is going to punch through. He's got to try and get out. He dented it, but he is still not in there, and you can see that it is destroying him. And so you can see him using more gadgets in there to get out. Cuts a sheet away, gets the door open, and he is able to finally get out. And so he keeps following the cable, and he says, "I've been suckered, played for by a fool." And he is not in there. So he knows that he's close by, but he wasn't being kept in the castle. So he goes out here, and he says it has to be close by, and then he sees this, and there's a cave, and so down he goes here, and Jim's been bitten, and so he takes him to the doctor, and look at that, he's plugged in, he's recharging here, and so he comes through back to the castle, gets the guy again, but that's not going to work. He's going to try to get out, but Iron Man goes, "You will not escape." And he's like, "Please don't hurt me." And he's like, "I ought to break you," he says here. And so here comes that girl. He pushes him to the side, but he's going to take him to the police. And so the two of them get out. So that night they're at the doctor, and he says he's not getting better, and he goes, "Do what you have to do, doctor. I'm having a team of specialists flown in from the States, and 1.5 tons of medical equipment should arrive by morning." And then she says, "Idris, there is," she asks if there's something she can do, and yes, "Keep me company, please." And so we get to finally the last panel here. So he thinks the Laird is me, and since he was the Laird in prison, he thinks he has won. Good. The game progresses with interest. It'll give me much pleasure to checkmate such a resourceful opponent. Next issue, The Melter. So we're going to conclude all 6 issues here. So Iron Man 160 through 165. All written by Denny O'Neil. Luke McDonald, the penciler on most of these issues, -2. So 4 of the 6 issues here, with Steve Ditko doing the first one. So hope you've enjoyed this. Something I want to do, I want to get that whole Denny O'Neil Iron Man run. It's a bunch of issues. So again, I'm not going to read each and every single one because it's just going to take forever. So I'm going to see if maybe monthly I can release a couple of these long videos to cover that run. So like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.